Hey everyone, this is McCracken the Whip with Nealia. Heart, Horses, and Hounds, a podcast of life and a career of passion for all things horses. This is podcast number 2. I had an idea today. Since it was quiet, I was thinking how much I love being with horses. And today I got a lot of time to think about it. So when I went to the barn, I go in and I usually am the ground person for Aaron McCracken, who's the head trainer here. And I learn a lot every day by watching. I've never stopped learning. And sometimes those ideas are very big and sometimes they're really small. But I'm lucky because I get to watch the show horses, which is my first passion. And we're getting them ready for a show, so we have to have a lot of ideas and have them peaked at the right time. So we worry about conditioning and how much you work them, or if you work them too long or not enough, make sure they're at the right weight, and that everything's in peak. So it's a lot of small details that we're watching, and it really makes me feel good that I am useful and that our horses are happy, and it makes me proud of Erin and the way she trains and the kindness she shows to every horse. One of the other things that makes me feel good, but in a different way, is the rescues, because they also come in the main ring where we work the show horses. And I see them come in. They come in every day. We have a guy that goes out, and his job is to make sure those horses come in, get brushed, and checked every single day. We have over 30, so obviously he doesn't get each horse in every day, but he works on getting them in, and then I check them off. He brings them in, I okay them, make sure they're sound, no cuts, no lameness, no illness. And one of the horses that it just makes me warm and fuzzy to talk about, to see her, is a horse that's a buckskin, probably a quarter horse, that I found and saw when I was at the Killbuyer's property. And she was standing up away from the other horses. She was very low backed, which attracted me, because at first I thought, wow, it's an older buckskin saddlebred. And I couldn't take it. I looked at her teeth, and she's way in her 20s, maybe even 30. And she just looked like everything she'd ever loved was gone. She wasn't happy where she was. She was extremely thin, wouldn't look at you, but she did scoot over, and she did sort of acknowledge that I was petting her. At least she didn't move away from me. And I went home thinking, I don't need this horse. But I talked to my husband, Mark, and he okayed the money to come from Northwind to buy this horse. So the first thing I had to do was come up with a name for her. And buckskin kind of sounds like a guy's name. So I named her, I have a warped sense of humor. I named her Bikini. Not Bikini, Bikini. And I'm telling you, that took some doing to explain to the guys what that name meant. And I was showing pictures and saying, it's not this, but here's the color of her. And they finally got that down. And she was so thin when she came in, and she wouldn't eat. And it looked like she had problems with her teeth, and she was just smashing the grain down, and then she'd finally give up. So we bought her a special bucket, and we made sure she got the alfalfa hay. And I was so worried about her, I put her out in the backyard. That's the only real grass in our yard that we have that's fenced in. And we don't normally put horses there, but I'm not too worried about being called a Beverly Hillbilly. Maybe just the Hardwick Hillbilly is accurate. And we put her out there, and she's been out there since August when we got her. We got her a little before August. And she's putting on weight, and I've noticed when she comes in after they've brushed her and cleaned her up, she is walking with purpose. She's had Gabe, our blacksmith, work on her, and he's really done a really nice job on her feet. And she's starting to feel better, and she looks around. She uses her ears. Before, they just kind of went out the side of her head, like somebody just flattened them right out. And she almost gets excited going back into her stall. And what I do notice is she pays attention to people, and she checks her feed bucket, and now it's empty. And we are about ready to try her out for riding and see if she'll be like a lead line horse or something, because it's easier to find a home for a horse that can do a job. But I see her and it just makes me feel warm inside. And I go, who would help this horse if I wasn't there? She probably worked all her life and took care of kids or a particular rider. She may have even been a good show horse in her day. But at this point, she had no one. And thin, like she hadn't been cared for. We got her teeth done. We had some major work done on her feet. She's been wormed. She's got her vaccinations. She's just really coming around and showing her personality. I know Bikini is probably going to have a hard time finding a home, but it makes my heart feel really good when I know that she's thriving and that she's happy and that her last days, whether it's a year or 2 years or 5 years or longer, have been happy and good, and she's been safe and not afraid or disheartened. And some of those rescues come in and they act like they've got an invisibility cloak that they wear and they don't want you to look at them. And it takes a while to get those horses out of their shell. We do it a lot with treats and brushing and just talking to them and being nice. And sometimes we put a lot more time in them in that way before we even start really doing what our evals, because these horses have to feel like they want to please somebody. We've had 3 or 4 thin horses come in about the same time, and I'm going to talk about Dale. He's one of the 2 that got sold and were headed down to Louisiana, and we managed to intercept the buyer. I've got another shipper that I've used from time to time here in New Jersey, and he, on his day off, drove down and picked those horses up and brought them back. Took very good care of them, sent pictures. They had skin fungus. They were thin. And Dale was one that was more nervous, a little more put off by people. And he was probably the thinnest of the 2. He started putting on a little weight, and he looks a lot better, so don't get me wrong. He looks really, really nice, and he's ready to start doing more evals. But I'm pretty sure he has ulcers. He's not a big, strong eater. And the ulcer medicine that we need to put him on is very expensive. And right now, Saddlebred Rescue does not have that kind of money to provide him with a month's worth of ulcer medicines, plus then some continuing for a second month to help him get over this and become a better eater. And hopefully he'll be a little more relaxed just having people around him and doing things. This comes right on top of the shoeing that's due for all the rescues. And when we do shoeing, our bill is like a minimum of $3,000 for the rescues if nothing goes wrong. And it's really hard to raise money for that. It's easy to raise money when your adrenaline's flowing and you're saving a horse. And I know that I don't do a good enough job at getting people emotionally involved in these horses. We don't do anything negative. We don't trash people, even though I'd like to strangle a bunch of them that treat their horses poorly. And because it just hurts the whole industry when we're trashing the Amish, the horse trainers, the breeders, the people that sell their horses. Life happens and things happen. And these horses fall through the cracks, and maybe it was just accidental. And it's really hard to raise that money when it's not an exciting thing. There's no villain. There is a victim, definitely the horses. But they're really the heroes. There's no hero. Everyone that gives money to an organization like Saddlebred Rescue helps maintain these horses and get them properly rehabbed and evaled, and we get their feet done and we get their teeth done and they have their shots, and we let their bodies heal, which can take up to 6 months before the body soreness goes away and their trust can come back so that we can work them. And once we get them working, I can see them coming into a job. I can see whether they're trail riding or whether they're going to be a lesson horse or academy horse. And once they're in that job and I can see other kids ride them, it feels so wonderful. It just doesn't happen overnight. And it's not exciting for us to show this. I'm trying to get everybody involved to see what it's like at Saddlebred Rescue and for us to be raising the money and getting the work done that helps make these horses thrive. I don't like our horses being placed in a home where I don't know enough about them to make sure they're going to last there, make sure they're not over their heads. And it worries me constantly about what's going to happen to these horses. With the 30 some odd we have now, we need to place quite a bit more before we can start taking any more. I'm pretty busy with, when I get one, I try to get another one replaced, because I know there are horses out there that are going to slaughter that I could help if I only had the funds. We have the room. We do not have the funds. The feeling these horses give me, they have taught Jessie, my daughter, and Erin Marks and my daughter. They have ridden hundreds of these horses, the skills they've learned from the rescues. And it's really hard to believe that some of your top riders learned their most valuable skills from riding a horse that was unwanted and basically useless in somebody's mind. And most of these horses are not. They just fell on hard times. We all know that can happen. I need everyone's help to help us keep doing what we need to do, what's right by these horses, to get them a home. So I hope I didn't drag you down too much. I'm really passionate about this part of it. And I hope you look forward and want to hear from me again. And I'd like to say goodnight. I did this kind of late, so talk to you later.